Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. I'm your host, Dylan, along with my cousin and co-host.
Gab.
And tonight, we will not swallow your soul because we spit. That was too far. I'm not proud of that joke.
That was.
We're talking about Evil Dead Rise.
Oh my
What
God.
is technically the fifth film in the Evil Dead series. Gab has never seen any one of these.
That was the fifth?
Yep.
Why did you make me watch the fifth?
Because it's only very loosely connected to any other ones where there were things that are homages, but there's nothing. Did we figure out last time, is it homage or homage? Is the H silent?
It's definitely homage, and you sound very uneducated and not at all. It's not classy.
Wait, there was this one time it was Passover, and my cousin on the other side of the family is reading, and she's got to be like, she's young but old enough that she should know this. So you obviously are well aware you have your bitter herbs that you're dipping, right?
Wait, who are we talking about?
Don't make me name names.
Okay, but it's who I think, right?
It's who you think, probably.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
So
her mom's name starts with an M?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were having the youngest person read the plagues, or something like that, and she goes, "Oh, it's why on this day do we eat the bitter herbs when on other days we do not eat the bitter herbs?" And
No,
I'm just like shoving Giselle under the table, like herbs. I was cracking up.
How old was she at this point?
Probably like 13.
Oh my God.
Too old for herbs.
I mean, she's heard 12 other times at minimum.
She's been to at least 12 other satyrs. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? That's crazy. Oh my God. All right. The bitter herbs. Oh,
Getting
boy.
back on the track. We're talking about Evil Dead Rise.
So this makes sense then why Corey kept saying, which movie are you watching? The Evil Dead Strikes Back, Return of the Evil Dead. Which one is it? And I was like, Evil Dead Rise. Ha ha ha.
They really, it's never built like a franchise because the names are so weird. It's Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead Rise.
There's two called Evil Dead?
Yes, there's one that's Evil Dead from 1982, I want to say, and then there was an Evil Dead in 2013, and that's also loosely connected. So it's sort of like just different versions. Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness all have one character that connects them.
Can I guess who?
Sure.
The demon?
No. I mean, the demons, which are called Deadites, are in all of them. That is connecting as well.
Who is it? Who's the character?
Bruce Campbell is the star of those first three movies, and he plays Ash.
Who's Ash?
He's the guy who is fighting the Deadites in Evil Dead. Well, how deep do I need to go into this explanation?
Well, was he in this one that I just watched?
He was not. He has a cameo in it. But no, he's not a crucial character to this movie at all.
Oh, well, why would you let me guess then? You know I haven't seen any of those.
You wanted to guess.
I thought it was going to be somebody in this movie that I just watched.
Why would it be? I wouldn't have had you watch it then if it was that connected to this. It's Cass. That is actually a 50-year-old woman.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Where were we? The movie came out last year, 2023. Yeah, we don't need to get into too much more. So now we can start talking about, Gab, what did you think this movie was about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
What did I think before I watched it, or what did I think?
Ooh, I like that, actually. What did you think before you watched this movie that it was about?
So I went out of my way not to look up what this film was about. I assumed that it was going to be about like some kind of zombie thing because of the word rise. It felt like it was going to be a zombie situation. However, upon watching, I learned that it is oddly very like not complicated. It is a story about a woman that gets possessed by a demon, and the demon just it's unavoidable.
They're all fairly straightforward in that sense. It's that the story of all of these could be summed up to somebody fucked with a book that they shouldn't have fucked with.
Yes. The book
Yes.
and the records and the yada, yada, yada. Yeah. But I was kind of like, I actually turned on the captions because I was like, I must pay attention to follow this storyline because it started in a cabin in the woods and then it cut to a bathroom at a rock concert. And I was like, oh, this is going to be complicated. And then it wasn't even a little bit.
It was not remotely complicated. It says one
No.
day earlier, so it's not like, I don't know. I don't think it makes it very like you have to know what's happening here. But okay, now
Yeah.
that you
But
have seen it,
the whole time I was like, but what's happening with this cabin? Like, when are we going to get to Jessica in the cabin?
and why is the
Um,
cabin shaped like a triangle?
Yeah. And also, why are all these bitches named Jessica? There's always a Jess. Like, what's up with that?
I don't know.
Jessica.
It's just a generic name that hasn't been ruined, like Karen. Can't name people Karen now.
No, you can't. My old boss was named Karen. And you know what? Fucking, she was a Karen.
There you go. See,
Still
that's why
is
you
a
can't name
Karen.
people that now.
I
Yeah,
know,
now
but
that
you
you've
know what?
seen this movie,
Yeah.
what's the succinct version of what this movie's about?
I think I already did. I think I already said it.
No, you
It
said the
was a,
version of if you hadn't seen the movie before seeing the movie.
No, and then I said, and after I watched it, I saw that it's not very complicated because it's
Oh,
about a
okay.
demon that fucks everybody up. And then
Well,
you said
fine.
somebody fucks with a book and then everybody dies. The end.
Quite frankly, my version works for every one of the movies. I think it's better.
That's crazy. But up until about 10 minutes ago, I didn't know that there was more than one movie. So I feel like I'm at a severe disadvantage.
But you're really not. And I think I kind of like that about this movie is that if you're a fan of the series, it has stuff that you can latch onto, like, oh, cool, that's a cool reference. I like that. And if you're not a fan of the series, I think you can watch this movie and have never seen anything else and you're not missing out. Maybe you're missing out on some explanations, like you didn't know that the demons are called Deadites, but does that change your enjoyment of the movie? No. I do think it's what is interesting is the second and third Evil Dead movies are like pretty comedic. And then you get to like 2013 in this one, and they're very much more serious. All right. Should we get to IMDb's version of the plot?
Please.
A twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. Taglines?
Yeah. I'm just still trying to wrap my head around this. Yeah. Please tag me up.
Mommy loves you to death.
Okay.
And the second one is Come to Mommy.
Okay.
Boy, should we give some more detail on what the movie's about?
Yeah. I'm sorry. This movie.
Okay. We have a quick prologue where Jessica, her cousin, whose name I don't remember, and her boyfriend go to a cabin. The prologue itself is mostly irrelevant. It's more just setting the tone. And there's a very quick reference to the original Evil Dead movies. That opening shot where we're seeing the drone is actually a reference to they would do these point of view shots from the evil's point of view. And they do it a couple times in this one where they actually, they couldn't afford like a dolly where you have a track that you're moving your camera on. So what they did was they screwed the camera to a 2x4, had two people grab an end of it and just ran through the woods with it at Bruce Campbell. And so you got this effect of this moving camera where it was sort of steadied and sort of still like moving in such a way that you could tell it's not a dolly, but it was just more interesting.
Yeah.
So we have a reference to that, but then it turns out to be a drone. And I'm definitely going too far now, but what you realize is Jessica is clearly something's not right with her. She starts throwing up whatever kind of demon liquid there is that's like, oh, clearly this is not normal human vomiting. Unless all she had that day was New England clam chowder by the boatload. She was like, it's a chowder day. We're going to go to the fucking cabin. I'm going to have my chowder. And then she got possessed by a deadite, as one does.
Right.
Which I thought the same thing later in the movie when Ellie is first possessed and, she also has a moment where she like throws up as the demon is taking her over. And I was like, who wants cream of wheat right now? Like, just this all white vomit that you're like, it's clearly supposed to be unhuman and unnatural. But I was like, could really go for some Quaker Oats.
It just really, so first of all, I don't understand why when you get possessed, you also get the stomach flu. Like, why are you vomiting? Number one. But number two, it begs the question, is this sort of like a paying homage? You hear how I said that? Homage to The Exorcist, where like, was that the first time we saw a demon throw up?
I don't think so. I think it's more just supposed to be,
Disgusting.
disgusting, something unnatural in your body that your body's trying to get rid of, that type of thing. And sure, there is some, like, I'm sure there are movies before even The Exorcist where people throw up. I think The Exorcist, which is probably 3 years before the first Evil Dead movie, is very famous for that scene where it's Reagan, I think is the girl's name, Reagan,
Yeah.
and she's vomiting the split pea soup onto the priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, side note, I know someone who actually someone who knows this person is listening to this podcast right now. But they named their daughter Reagan. And the whole time I thought to myself, like the Exorcist girl?
No, like Ronald Reagan.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. Just really, really big on America.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful name, but it only really brings me to one person. I guess two now that you say Ronald Reagan, but like,
Yeah, my immediate thought is to go to Ronald Reagan. I'm like, no, not a good name.
yeah, no, I always think of the Exorcist girl. But anyway,
All right, so we see a first example of the possession, and we get an awesome title card when Jessica possessed floats out of the water and the title card floats up behind her. I think that shit is dope as fuck. And then we are with our protagonist, Beth, who we find out she just found out she's pregnant. She is, a traveling guitar tech, and she's also, her sister Ellie would call her a groupie, which she does not appreciate. But she sort of goes home to Ellie to try and like reconcile, try and just get support. And she realizes that they both haven't really been supportive of each other because Ellie tried to call her and tell her that her husband has just ditched them with, she's got 3 kids and they're being evicted from their building in like a month. So shit is bad all over. Take that and combine that with an earthquake, which leads to the opening of a vault that was buried under the building that has Naturum de Monto in it, the Book of the Dead, which one of the kids steals with the idea of being like, hey, maybe we can make some money from this creepy, creepy book, which I said it even in the theater when he's in that little vault and the statue comes falling out. I leaned over to Zach and went, Jesus.
that's good.
And obviously possession hijinks ensue. People are, dying. And I think what's interesting about this one in particular, although I guess I should save that for opinion time.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Should we get to our opinions? We've given enough of a base.
Yeah, I would really like to.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
What I was going to say that I find interesting about this one is the fact that it's all familial. So pretty much, except for like some extra people on that same floor of the apartment building, you're just faced with like, oh, I have to kill my sister or I have to kill my mom right now. And it's like, obviously that makes things harder. And I do feel like this movie also has people reacting somewhat more like humans would actually react. It's not like an action movie reaction where it's like, let me fuck this motherfucker up. It's like shock and pause and wait, are you okay? Because I would prefer if you were okay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When Ellie, who is the mom and Beth's sister, initially gets possessed, she dies, and like they have her in bed with her eyes open, and she looks terrible. And then she sits up at one point, and when she sits up, they all kind of react like this is a good thing, right? Like they're like, our brains are immediately like, this is a horror movie. Obviously, it's a bad thing. But if you were in that situation, you would be
she's
like,
alive.
She's alive. I guess that's good. And then she, goes kind of batshit, as demon possessed people tend to do. I feel like I should let you put some opinions out there, though, considering you had never seen any one of these.
Yeah, no, I had not. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of backstory. My life has been a little crazy, and so I had to pencil in time to watch this film today, ending about 4 to 7 minutes before we started recording. So I have freshly just watched this. And I came home. I'm by myself. Corey is at work, so I came home from the gym. I closed the door, I turned the lights off, and I like really committed to watching this movie because I was like, now or never, Gab, we got to do this. So I put the movie on, I turned the lights out, and I'm sitting here, I'm watching, and I'm like, my phone is on the other side of the room. I am very in this.
Okay.
And I find that I'm interested more than I thought I would be. And as the movie goes on, I find that I'm really interested in how disgusting it is. Like,
Okay.
I want to see the vile, gross, gory shit. And typically that's not my thing. And there were a couple of moments where I had to close my eyes because I was like, ugh, I don't want to see this. But um I think it just goes to kind of further prove the point that I made about some of the other scary movies that you've had me watch, or I don't recall exactly what I said this about, but I know I've said it. I don't remember if it's I think it was The Thing, where you're just not showing me. Oh, and I said it about the Stanley Tucci rape movie. You're just not showing me what I'm here to see.
The Lovely Bones, by the way. If this is your first episode, that's the Stanley Tucci rape movie that she's referring
Yeah.
to.
Thank you, The Lovely Bones.
What are
But
they not
honestly,
showing you?
the rape, the Stanley Tucci rape.
No. In this movie, what are they not showing you? Jesus.
Oh, no, in this movie, they're showing me everything. So
Oh.
I have a morbid sense of curiosity. So I am watching intently because I want to see how much grosser, Ellie starts to look as she's possessed. And I want to see what happens to, is that Joey King?
No. I think you're talking about Bridget, the older
Yeah.
sister. I think the
Yeah.
actress's name is Gabrielle Nichols. Let me make sure I have that.
My
right.
name is Gabrielle.
Gabrielle Eccles, not Nichols. I was close though.
That's almost my name if I had a different last name.
That's half of your name, yes.
We have the same first name. I wonder when her birthday is. So I'm very interested, and I kind of, so we didn't talk about this, but I've made a decision, and my decision is that this episode is going to be a little different. This episode is going to be titled "The Education of Gabrielle," because I need you to educate me. Because I'm watching this movie and I'm interested visually. I'm like, show me more, show me more. I want to see, I want to see, I want to see. But all the while, I'm like, this is objectively not good. It's not great writing. It's not great dialogue. It's not very complicated. I'm like waiting for the twist. There's nothing about it that makes me say like, oh my God, I can't believe that. It happens and it ends exactly how I would have thought. Maybe you could argue that the twist is the Jessica thing at the end, where the whole time I was like, all right, so where's Jessica? Who's Jessica? How's this going? But frankly, I wasn't like, wow, everybody has to see that movie. I was like, if we're going just based on content alone, like the writing, the text of the story, it's not doing it for me.
I don't think it's really dead set on having a twist. I don't think all horror movies have to have twists. What I would say is, are you getting the greatest written film ever? No, but I think there are interesting themes, which is one, a perversion of motherhood, and two, an acceptance of motherhood in Beth.
But what about like Rosemary's Baby? Didn't we do this already? I've never seen that, but isn't that like a perversion of motherhood?
There can't be more than one movie with a theme, Gab.
No, there can. I'm just saying, like,
Hallmark puts out 100 Christmas movies every fucking year. Nobody's complaining about them. Let the horror have some fun, damn it. And I think fun is the key word there, because I can tell you, I remember I saw this in the theater and we were having a fucking blast. And
but you're not supposed to have fun. It's scary.
Yes, you are. But the point of being scared is that it's also supposed to be fun. It's like if you're going on a roller coaster, you're scared, but then you had fun when you got off the roller coaster, which I do not. I just get terrified by those. But sometimes a great horror movie is just terrifying too. I
just don't get it. Like, I don't
You didn't have fun
it.
watching it? Did you have fun?
I had fun, but I
You
had
took
fun
interest
because
the whole time you were saying.
I was like, oh, I want to see what's happening here. I want to see the disgustingness. There was one shot that I was like, that was shot really poorly. Really poorly.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah. The
feel like there's
brother
one
is
thing I wrote
having
down
his
too.
arm stabbed.
Yeah.
And it's very clearly a detached arm, and he's just like next to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying there. Maybe there's no better way to do that, really. I think this is not a movie that is overly CGI'd, so I kind of appreciate that still. I'd rather
Very
have
practical.
slightly fake arm than like an overabundance of CGI, because I think it ends up looking really good. I think that's why this movie, which is made pretty cheaply, looks really good.
Yeah, it looked good. It did look good. I just don't understand. And I think this is like, I don't think it has anything to do with this movie in particular. I just don't understand these horror movies that are all franchise-esque, like this what's the one that they're doing now? The Omen or
The First Omen?
the Haunt? Yeah, it's like that's like a part of like a there and like the Annabelle Corey talks about all the time, where it's like they're all kind of loosely tied together. They're in like the same
The
universe.
Conjuring universe. Okay.
Yeah, whatever it is. I just don't think any of them are like particularly well written. I don't think they're like particularly unique.
It's rare
And
that
so
any series of films is particularly well written, though. Like, even if you think of great movies with sequels, it's rare that you're like, every single one of those is great.
yeah. Oh, no
To be fair.
question. But I just think like this genre, I've just never seen a horror movie and been like, wow, that was good. And I think it's because they're trying to scare you more than they're trying to like entertain you. Like I feel like the entertainment factor is in the scaring and not in the story. So for me,
Yes.
I'd be way more scared if it was like a story that I felt like could happen to me
Well, I think that's
versus
why
like
your most famous horror movies ever are the ones that you're talking about that are elevated writing in addition to still being scary, like
what?
The Exorcist, like The Sixth Sense, like Silence of the Lambs. Have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, once, but I don't really remember it. But maybe you can help me with this. I remember there being a guy wearing like a fake face. He had like his face was fucked up.
Yes, that's Hannibal Lecter.
It is?
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I feel like we should do this movie if you barely remember it,
Yeah, I'd like
although
to.
it's too good to do.
Yeah.
But when he escapes, the way he escapes is he escapes from his cell, bites off the face of one of his guards, puts the mangled faced guard on top of the elevator. So they think that they've captured Lecter because the clothes are switched, and they think they're transporting the guard to the ambulance. And he sits up, peels off the face, and it's like, oh shit, Lecter's out type of moment.
Yeah.
Um,
No. So I'm thinking of it might be in the prequel or the sequel, but there's a guy in a wheelchair who has been maimed and he's
yes, that is Hannibal, which is a sequel to it. It's Gary Oldman
okay.
as maimed face guy.
Oh, interesting. We've definitely talked about this before. But yeah, that's who I think. I don't remember the specifics of that scene and him chewing off anybody's fair, anything like that. But I think what I have seen is Hannibal because I remember the wheelchair guy with the disgusting face.
It's also the movie where Ray Liotta eats his own brain.
Amazing. May he rest in peace.
R.I.P. I will say, you know what I like about this series of movies, and I do about this movie too, is you get the feeling that the Deadites are kind of like, we could win in a second if we wanted to, but they like to have fun, and it's fun for them to torture the people, and they either just by being mean or pretending to be the person again. So it's like, oh, I can fuck with you a little bit more by doing that. Like one of my favorite moments of the whole movie is they like to go after the most innocent person. So when it's the little girl, Cassie, who is looking through the peephole at the mom, and the mom's, she says, "You don't look so good, mom." And the mom goes, "Nothing a big old hug and kiss from you wouldn't fix. Open up now." And it's like this great moment of like, again, if you're a fucking like 9-year-old, yeah, you might think, I thought she was better, and like immediately she's like, oh no, I get to fuck this kid up. I think it's just a fun thing that, if you think about like Jason or Michael Myers, there's never a sense of fun. They're more like unstoppable killing machines that are just lumbering towards you at some point and like are somehow fast, even though they never run type of thing.
Yeah.
The Deadites, it's like, yeah, you might be able to shut the door, you might be able to do something, but they can't really die, and they are going to enjoy torturing you. And I kind of like that. I think it makes them fun villains that they are excited to be evil.
I get that.
It sounds like you just fell off a cliff.
Oh no. Okay, so I have a couple more questions. So at my core, I'm still confused. Am I supposed to be scared? Because I don't know. Like, am I supposed to have a nightmare?
Gav, I feel like your definition of horror movies is very difficult to reach, where you're like, this should forever taint me as a person that I'll never be okay again. And it's like, no, you're supposed to like, ooh, in a moment, maybe. Like you're supposed to have moments of like, ooh, that was a little scary. Ooh, I did not expect that to happen. That's what you're supposed to have happen. Not I've been shaken to my core. Like, it's not like you're not watching snuff films here where it's like, that was fucked up. I'll never be okay again, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I don't get it. And I think you're helping me understand, which is why I said this is going to be an education piece because at first I was like, should I watch this alone? But then I was like, I've watched every horror movie I've ever seen alone and none of them have ever bothered me. I don't understand. Um but also like I don't get where we're supposed to like talk about what a great movie this is because it was arguably I think anybody could have made this movie. It's like oh, okay, so they're all sitting around the table and they're like, all right, I got one, you guys. It's a mom and she gets possessed and then she tries to possess her kids. And it's like anybody could have come up with that idea.
Yeah, again, this reminds me of when we were doing The Rocker, where you very much oversimplify something. Because I could say to you right now, all right, it's a girl in high school and people think she's sleeping around. Huh?
Well,
it's
that's
Sherlock
based on the
Holmes,
Scarlet
but
Letter.
he's a mouse. Huh?
Well, that's exactly what it was, though. We said that. And there are mouse hookers, huh? Like, yeah. Right. But like this, I just feel like this whole genre is like this because you can't be like every comedy in the world is about a girl who's sleeping around or every detective movie is about a mouse. I don't know. You know what I mean? But like in this genre, I'm hard pressed to find a well-written scary movie.
I think you haven't searched enough, Gab. That's your issue. You haven't searched enough. The person who does this the most too. I love a good horror movie. You know, my mom watches like every fucking horror movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like everyone, because her classic thing is she'll always say to me, horror movies aren't scary, Dill. You know what's scary? When you can't pay your mortgage, when the light bill is due and you don't have the money. You know what's scary? When there's a lump and you don't know where it's from. Like literally things I've heard her say 50 times.
That's amazing. And she's not wrong.
She's not wrong, you know, and it's my point, I guess, is that I can tell you that for an hour and a half, I was thoroughly entertained. I was mildly scared. And to me, I thought it crossed the line where I was like, this is fucking fun. And I think this is such a fun movie to watch with other people. Particularly, I think maybe it's not good that you watch it by yourself. I think maybe it would have been better to watch with Corey because I thought this was such a fun movie to watch with other people. And I remember I showed it to my friend Steve and like, we had a blast watching it. And I remember I finally convinced Giselle to watch it because the whole time she was like, I've heard enough. I don't need to watch this shit. Like she was like, fuck that, you know, because
yeah,
to her, I think possession movies are like the scariest horror. So just like seeing the trailer, she was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time to convince her to watch it.
Yeah. But okay. So first of all, what did she think?
I think she liked it. Although I think I also put it on late enough at night that she might have fallen asleep too.
But
that does not speak to the quality of the film. That speaks to her tiredness.
True. That speaks to the quality of her life.
Damn.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you know, she's her quality of life is not great because she's doing so much work. Neither is yours, neither is mine, neither is anybody's. So
good save, good recovery.
Do I want to ask you this question in a public forum? I guess I have to because we're in a public forum. No one's ever really been possessed, right? Like that's not a thing that happens.
That's in the eye of the beholder, Gab. To me, if you ask me that as a very logic-based person, I would say, no one's ever actually been possessed by some strange being.
Right.
But there are people who will say, you know, that some of this shit is real. That
of course,
there are some people who've
people
been possessed who were somehow able to now speak a language that they didn't actually ever speak before, you know, that type of thing. Or
like speaking in tongues,
or like, you know, what movies is this? The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is based on a true story.
of course,
which made me literally piss myself in the theater. I think I might have said that before, but scared.
You were scared
shit out of me as a little kid.
I saw that in the movie theaters, and we were in like middle school or high school, and I wasn't scared.
Scared the fuck out of me.
How?
I've rewatched it since, and I don't find it very scary, but it really got to me at the time.
What were you afraid of? I
don't remember what specifically was the scariest part, but I remember being really freaked out by like them going in the room and she's eating the bugs, or like them going in the room and her body's just contorted and she's just screaming at them. Like, scared the fuck out of me. Great performance by Jennifer Carpenter, who is in, the only things I know her from are that, Dexter, and White Chicks. Which, like, what a varied filmography.
Yeah.
She can
Her
do anything.
range is incredible. Yeah.
When you can work with demons and Busy Phillips, you could do it all, you know? I've totally lost where I was now.
You were scared of the exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh yeah, but just that is based on a true story, and
I don't
you know, they say in the true story that she actually was speaking languages she never spoke before, doing things she had never been able to do before, that type of thing. So, you know, do I believe in it? No, but there are people out there who really do. But, you know, not where they're able to be stabbed in the head with scissors and pull the scissors out and keep going type of thing, like Ellie does, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so now I have some text-based questions. Okay.
Yeah,
Number
generally
one.
you use a cell phone, but now you can do it on a laptop too.
Number one, I much prefer to text on my laptop. Number one, why is it so they keep trying to harm the people who are possessed, stab through the eye, shoot them with a gun, etc., etc., and none of it works. And then at one point we hear from the horse's mouth on the record, the OG guy who discovered the book,
Father Marcus Littleton.
Yes, is saying, I tried to dismember them and it didn't work. I tried to burn them and it didn't work. I tried to bury them and it didn't work. And so none of this is working. And yet they continue to try. And then at the end, they put them in like a wood chipper.
Yes.
And it works. How?
How? Because drops of blood can't chase you. I think that's why at the very end you see that you can only stop it temporarily. That's all you can ever do. So the point being that, you know, if you chop them up, yeah, you'll probably defeat them, but the evil's been unleashed from the book. It's going to go somewhere else. That's why at the end it takes Jessica, because it's like, well, that evil's going to find a new home somewhere.
So, okay, that leads me to my next question. If that is true, and once the book is open, the evil is unlocked, the evil was unlocked whether the kid found the book and opened it or not.
That's a fair point. I think, you know, it's sort of what happens in every one of these movies, and there's technically 3 different books, is we sort of see a rediscovery. So there are many demons in the book, but I think each time you read, you're unlocking a pathway for more to come. So I don't think it's like 1 demon per book, please line up, you know? I think it's it's just a pathway that once those words are spoken, that something can come.
Okay. Sure. I can suspend my disbelief enough to accept that.
Thank you.
Lastly, there were some expletives flying in this film for sure.
Okay.
Not the least of which was the C word, which my mother would say is the only word that you shouldn't say. Although I do say it.
The only word? Is she a racist? She throwing the N-word left and right?
That's true. That is true.
You go back to the source on that, motherfucker.
That's true. Excuse me, Mom. I have a question. I remember one time being in high school and I said, and she is such a, and I said it, and my mom slammed on the brakes and pulled the car over. And yeah, she was like, don't ever say that again. And I was like, oh, really? Because I was always allowed to fuck, shit. Like it didn't matter. That one really got to her. So I make sure to never say it around her, but I do say it sometimes. I save it for very specific, like important purposes. You know, I mean it when I say it. But anyway, that word is said in this film. And yet the demon insists on saying, you stinking groupie. Why?
When? Because at the end it calls her a groupie cunt. So.
Yeah, but it twice. The demon, because remember, I watched it with the captions because I thought it was going to be complicated. It says, you stinking groupie. She says it 2 times. Why wouldn't she say fucking groupie? She's a demon, is she not? What are we? We don't want to curse?
Who cares? The movie's R-rated. This wasn't they couldn't curse.
I know. That's why I'm confused. What kind of a choice is that?
You just don't appreciate demons not letting the expletives fly? It's like, you're a demon. It should be, so the demon should be walking around like, you fucking groupie fucks. What the fuck you fucking think you're fucking doing?
You gosh darn stinking pile of dog poop.
Have you ever seen Misery with Kathy Bates?
No.
First of all, add it to the list. Second of all, it's an iconic line. She's the antagonist in the movie, but she is so like she doesn't curse, she won't say a bad word. So she's yelling at James Caan. She goes, she never got out of the cock-a-doodie car. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just it's that way of speaking. That's great.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you on why they chose not to curse at that moment.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. How come demons are always kind of going in and out of these weird voices? Like, why have we just agreed that that's what happens? Where it's like regular voice, kind of different voice, very different voice. This is the demon voice. Like, why?
Because it's freakier.
Is
It's
it?
freakier than just maintaining normal voice.
But
Although that's why it does maintain normal voice when it's something that's so uncharacteristic of what they would say. When it's like, I imagine we'd have a perfect day, and then I imagine cutting you open and crawling inside of you so we could all be together forever, type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. I get that. I guess what I'm asking is why have we universally agreed that that's what all demons sound like?
What do you mean? You want a demon that sounds like Gilbert Gottfried or something like that?
I just want there to be, I just feel like I'm watching the same movie over and over again. And honestly, not even because of the storyline, but because of the same, and the demon sounds like this. At one point, I was waiting for somebody's head to spin all the way around, like, because I guess that's what you do when you're possessed. And the vomiting, I guess that's what you do when you're possessed. It's like, God, you've seen one fucking demon, you've seen them all.
Yeah, if you've seen a horror movie, you're going to understand a lot of things that are tropes, which, these are tropes.
Right. And I could hear you saying that when I was watching it, because all of a sudden she's like on the ceiling, and then her hands are like, and she's crawling out of the tub, and she's all twisted and contorted. And I'm like, this is,
But
I've
what's
seen
not
this
scary? If she
so
just
many
sits
times.
up and calmly gets out of the tub. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
understand.
what is your solution?
A unique demon. Can someone please
But
find me a demon that is unique?
What's your version of a unique demon then?
I don't know,
Put on
Dylan.
your
I'm not a
writer
fucking
cap.
horror movie writer. Fine. I don't know. What if the demon I don't know. What if the demon turned into a bug?
I mean, by that
Or
logic,
turned
you have something similar to that happens in this movie. That once Bridget
Right.
gets possessed, what does she throw up? Dirt and worms. And it's
Right.
like, that's the moment where you're like, oh, I'm fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's already had the black ooh oozing out of her. Goo oozing out of her. Ooh, goozing, I said. Oozing out of her orifices. And she's like, I should get a glass of water. like
Yeah.
that's going to do it.
Yeah. I just feel like there are other things that could happen. And I will say, I did think it was interesting when they all morphed into one demon.
Yeah. Which,
that was unique.
If you think about, the theme of the movie, it's the ultimate perversion of family, that they are joined together trying to kill the youngest member of the family.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And I wished that they stayed in the apartment. I feel as though there are two things. Once they got into the elevator, I was a little excited because I was like, oh my God, is it going to go? Is it not going to go? Like, what's going to happen? I feel like they're trapped. It's too late. They're all the demons are like taunting them. And then the elevator goes ding, and the door opens and all the blood washes out. But I was like, I've seen The Shining.
Well, what do you want them to do?
Come up with a unique idea.
I do think it's a unique idea still. Like, I think,
Okay.
The difference is they're in the elevator. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear it. I'm just saying it's not a coincidence.
It's fair.
Okay?
It does remind me similarly of when you were talking about Red Eye, and you were like, I really liked it when it was just confined to the plane. It's once they leave the plane that I didn't like it.
Yeah, because then they get into the parking garage and they're so covered in blood. It's like a little ridiculous. And I understand they were just swimming in it, but it's like now it looks like the way they used, like it looks like the fucking Cleveland Indians mascot. And it's like, okay, whatever. And then it gets to a point where my suspension of disbelief is not able to continue because of the way that they're so close to getting murdered, and then they manage to escape, and then they're so close they manage to, it's like we've really pushed the limit of what I can believe a woman and a little girl are capable of against 3 demons that are now combined into one. I just feel like,
which when you think about it,
would've
I think it sort of limits their demon power to confine themselves together like that. That's just me. I'm like, bro, if the 2 of you had been holding Beth, the other one could have taken Cassie with ease, you know? That's just my thought.
Yeah,
My 2
that's
cents.
fair. I don't know. At that point, I had been so in, not on the story, but on the visuals. And by the time they got to the parking garage, I was like, I want either them to get away or them to get killed. But I want it to
You were
happen
ready
now.
for it to happen.
I was done.
That's fair. I do think what's interesting, and I wrote this down, is the funny part is this is still only the second bloodiest Evil Dead movie.
Are you kidding me?
In Evil Dead 2013, so there's in the other book, it's supposed to be once 5 people are killed, that it will bring forth the great demon that has come forth from that book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like you bring the conjoined marauder demon. So after the 5 people die, the skies start raining blood. And I think this is sort of how they got around being like an NC-17 movie that they were just R's, because there's so much blood that you can't even tell what blood is coming out of the demon she could be killing. You know what I mean? It's like, no, that's just rain blood. You know what I mean? That's just sky period. Don't worry about that.
It's fine. No gore here. Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you were looking for gore, this movie is so tame by comparison to Evil Dead 2013, which is like one of the goriest movies. It's not gory in the sense of like Hostel, where it's like gory for the sake of gory. It's still in service of the horror, but it is gnarly. Like,
yeah.
Ash, who is the main character of the series, I'd say, famously, part of the movie is that the evil starts to possess him, and you see the possession start traveling in his hand, and he cuts his hand off. And he very famously, you know, by the next movie, has a chainsaw strapped to his arm instead of a hand.
Oh boy.
In the 2013 movie, people are like cutting off their limbs left and right. One of the people gets possessed and like licks a knife blade until her tongue is splitting. Like, it is freaky deaky shit that you're like, oh, this is too far for me, you know?
Yeah. I'm not interested in that.
I don't think that this goes across the line too many times that it's like totally takes you out of it where you can't watch it. But I think this has 2 moments that are like effective gore. The first is
I would. Okay, go ahead.
You want to guess?
I want to guess. I want to tell you the one moment that I had to close my eyes.
Ooh, go for it.
When she was putting the tattoo gun into her eye.
Interesting. No, that's not one that really has an effect on me at all.
Oh, interesting.
First, when Jessica scalps her cousin.
Oh, yeah, that was so early though. I was kind of like, oh.
Okay, that is your first like we in it now. You know what I mean? That's kind of what that moment is. Like the prologue is like, this is the kind of movie we're in. The second one to me is when Bridget is possessed, Beth is trying to escape her, throwing items at her in the kitchen, and she catches the cheese grater and brings it right down on her fucking calf.
Didn't bother me.
No, I think that's a really cool fucking moment because you see for a second her just drag it across. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was the eye for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other pertinent opinions that we got to get out of here?
I don't think so, but let me ask you a question. Would you ever attend the haunted house where they're allowed to touch you and shit?
No.
Okay, but
Hell no.
you okay. Are you a haunted house guy at all?
Not really. It's not the last haunted house I've done. My biggest haunted house memory, I don't remember what, I think we were in another state. I think we were in Pennsylvania. And it was me, my mom, Zach, and my dad. And Zach and my dad, they're not scared by anything. So they like ran ahead of us. They were, off to the races. Me and my mom are holding each other tight. I've got to be like 10, maybe a little younger.
Yeah.
And, nobody's touching you, but this guy jumps out with a fucking chainsaw and goes, "What's in the bag, mama?" And the two of us screamed so hard that the guy was like, "Let him pass. That's enough. They're good." Like, we got through that shit traumatized, like, like the horror.
Wow.
That's always the experience that comes to my mind when I think of a haunted house. But I do feel like, I feel like at some point it clicked for me with horror movies and haunted houses that it's like, oh, it's not real. You know what I mean? where
Yeah.
I gotta say I was probably like 13 or 14. I feel like it was probably watching like The Grudge or something where I just like finally clicked in my head. Like I feel like there was a moment where I was like, oh, it's all fake. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. You need that moment. I get that. I I remember loving haunted houses. And I think it was because growing up I did so much theater that like I understood, kind of how it felt to be the person that was performing. So it made sense to me. Two comments on this. Number one, I would love to go to a haunted house with Corey, but he can't go because there's a very real possibility that he would accidentally hurt someone.
So, if I were the haunted house guy, I'd be scared of Corey too.
Yeah.
Corey's gonna rip Frankenstein in half. Yeah.
He's a little reactive, I think, when he gets scared. And I just think his instinct would be to punch someone in the face. Like, I think, you can take the boy out of the Bronx, and I just think he would be like, he ain't going into flight mode. You know what I mean?
There's a really good documentary, I think it's called Haunters or something like that, about people who every year put together haunted houses, and it's sort of like they do this for fun. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there are these people, McCamey Manor, I think it's called, where they're literally what they charge you is a can of dog food because they like do a dog rescue donation type of thing. It is the most twisted shit you've ever seen. Like, this guy is like putting people through horrific shit.
No, I don't like
But
that.
when you talk to like the more organized people who are like haunters professionally, they're like, yeah, you're gonna get punched in the face a few times. It's gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
it's part of the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta respect, I'd be more scared if I was the haunter by that point after I get punched in the face,
Yeah. You do it for the love of the game, Dill.
for the love of the game.
But there is a couple of haunted houses. There are a couple of haunted houses in New York City that are known for being like, you have to sign a waiver kind of
Yes.
thing.
And
There's
I would
one
not
of
do
them-
anything you have to sign a waiver for. Fuck that.
No, same. I remember when I worked at an older job a couple of years ago, a good friend of mine, we were reading about these haunted houses, and one of them describes a portion of the waiver in which you're signing that they're allowed to, and I quote, mouth rape you.
Nope.
That is not me using colloquial language, Dylan. That is what is in the waiver.
That's like when Giselle and I did skydiving and the waiver said, if you think about it, skydiving is just suicide if not for the parachute. And I was like, oh boy, that is a compelling argument to not sign this waiver. Good job, waiver.
Wow. But
Yeah.
I mean, how can you argue with that? So I know there's one where they're like, you have to like take all of your clothes off. You have to consent to being naked.
No.
They're allowed to touch you. They're allowed to handcuff you. They're allowed to put their fingers in your mouth and stuff like that. And then if you make it to the end, you get your money back.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's just torture. That's not fun. That's torture. But on the flip side, this movie wasn't scary. It was just predictable.
Okay.
There's got to be middle ground.
Between those two?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is, Gab. It exists. There are
I haven't
scarier
found
movies
it yet.
and less horrible haunted houses. There is a middle ground, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Well, find it.
All right. Should we do some facts?
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in the facts, and I hope you have a lot about the practical effects.
I want the truth!
Face the facts, ducks.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
I wish I had more. There really wasn't a lot about the practical effects of the movie, which I found disappointing. Last opinion I want to state, we're in the facts, but I want to state one last opinion. I think Alyssa Sutherland, who plays Ellie, it was, to me, one of the best performances I saw last year.
It was really good, and I thought that, and I wondered, like, how much of this is her? How much of this is, like, CGI? How much of, like, you know what I mean? Like, how much is she doing? I did think there were actually, now that you mention it, a couple of reaction shots from the sister Beth and somebody else, maybe the little girl. And I thought to myself, they really did them dirty, because it seems like they didn't describe very well what was going to happen, because they reacted in a way that doesn't feel like it was enough.
I remember when I was in film school, it was one of our assignments that was like, you have to do something with reaction shots. And you know what? It's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Reaction shots
Oh,
are
yeah.
really hard to do, because I remember the first time we did it, like we were doing a comedic scene and it was like, these do not work. Like the scene just grounded to a halt as you saw me like nodding like, yes. Like, it's like, oh, this does not work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. And it's got to be hard to be like, okay, so your sis possessed by a demon has just jumped out of the tub and leapt onto the ceiling. Well, how do you react? And it's like, I don't know, shock, horror. Like, I don't know. But they seem to be, it's almost like they said, she's going to sit up really quick and turn her head around. And so you're kind of like, oh no. But what happened was actually like insanely horrific. And they just didn't really, I feel like they just didn't give them enough.
What happened was insanely horrific, but they used the reaction shot for moderately horrific.
Yes. And it just felt
Okay,
like
that's
these
fair.
it's not that they're bad actors necessarily. It's just that they set them up for failure. Also, why did they want to hire two actresses that looked exactly like Halsey? Anybody else notice that? Halsey?
I don't know. Halsey, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know what she
Google
looks
her.
like.
Google her because she looks like those two ladies. I was like,
She looks
for a
like
moment,
both
I
of
thought,
them.
is this Halsey?
I see it a little bit. She kind of looks like the two of them blended together. Yeah, I kind of see it.
Yeah, it's like I could see like Halsey being the third sister. But anyway.
Maybe that's the sequel. Maybe that'll be your pitch.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Come on. Let's go.
All right,
Fact me up.
facts. IMDb gave it a 6.5 out of 10. On the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter, it got an 84% with an average rating of 7.1 out of 10, 196 fresh reviews and 37 rotten. Audience score is 76% with an average score of 3.9 out of 5. The movie was directed and written by Lee Cronin, who also directed The Hole in the Ground and had only done shorts and TV episodes before that. So he was sort of handpicked by the producers, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and Rob Tappert, to take the helm of this one. The movie stars Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, who you may know from the Mist TV show, Vikings, and Don't Look Up. Lily Sullivan as Beth, who you might know from Monolith, I Met a Girl, and Jungle. Gabrielle Eccles as Bridget, who you may know from Reminiscence. Morgan Davies as Danny, who you may know from One Piece, Blaze, and The End. And Nell Fisher as Cassie, who you may know from My Life is Murder and North Spur. The movie had a budget of $12 million, and it grossed $147 million worldwide. The critics' consensus, offering just about everything longtime fans could hope for while still managing to carry the franchise forward, Evil Dead Rise is all kinds of groovy. Hannah Flint from Time Out, it's not for the faint-hearted, but for longtime fans and horror nuts, just sit back and let the blood wash over you. Richard Roper from the Chicago Sun-Times, in addition to dropping in visual tips of the hat to certain elements from the Evil Dead franchise, writer-director Cronin delivers some outstanding callbacks. Joey Shapiro from the Chicago Reader, the first sequel in a full decade, this should feel like getting an Evil Dead reunion, but instead it's more akin to a so-so tribute band. James Berardinelli from Real Views, younger viewers or those new to the genre may wonder what's special about this film. The answer? Nothing. This is yet another victory for nostalgia over originality, which I definitely thought was a bit harsh. A couple Letterboxd reviews. Jay, do not pass the goth kid the aux. They will start playing century-old readings of the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, Book of the Dead.
Ah, that's good.
Aaron, strong contender for best title card of all time, really. Wes, hot moms in your area looking to get exercised. Click here. Scallop Joe, the only thing rising was my dick because this shit went hard as fuck.
Oh my God.
And you know what? I was like, yep, that works. And last letterbox from Jose Canas. When I was a kid, I skated to Blockbuster with my best friends, as we often did. We went to the horror section and one of them grabbed a copy of The Evil Dead and said, and I quote, "This looks like something Jose would make." So obviously I rented it and, well, I did it. I made one. I was a producer on an Evil Dead movie. I got to put some form of mark on a franchise that I hold near and dear to my heart. I got to see the movie bring the house down to South by Southwest. I got to see people scream over scares that have been living with our team for over 4 years. I got to take my wonderful fiance to her first premiere, and I'll never forget who I owe it to. My buddies back home who picked up a copy of Evil Dead 1981 and said, "This feels like Jose." That was producer from Evil Dead Rise, Jose Canas.
That's sweet.
I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, that's nice. When are you going to produce a movie, Dill?
When I have money or time or both.
You'll never have either. So.
Oh, man. Some fun facts. Director Lee Cronin stated in an interview that 6,500 liters or 1,720 gallons of fake blood were used for the movie.
Do you know what they usually use to make fake blood?
Corn syrup.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what else.
Sometimes maple syrup.
Delicious.
Mm-hmm.
They said there were different flavors of fake blood too. They're like, sometimes you would think you're getting like the sweet fake blood that they shoot at you, and it turned out it was the bitter one, and it was bad. I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
sucks.
Oh, but I guess that's a good reaction shot, right? Ugh.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
The film was originally meant to release exclusively through HBO Max direct to streaming, but it performed so strongly during test screenings that the studio decided to release it theatrically. The pizza place is called Henrietta's, a reference to Henrietta Noby, the demon in the basement in Evil Dead 2.
Right.
If you look at Ellie's arms, they're wrapped in tattoos of vines. This is a nod to Cheryl from The Evil Dead, Bobby Joe from Evil Dead 2, and Mia from Evil Dead, who all are attacked and bound by vines.
Well, of course, Bobby Joe. Who could forget?
Who could forget? I don't think I did say Bobby Joe. Lily Sullivan based Beth's accent on Mila Jovovich. Which, you know what? Now that I know that, I can hear it.
Why did she need to have an accent?
Well, Lily Sullivan and Alyssa Sutherland are both Australian. So they were doing non-Australian voice.
Oh, I understand. Okay, I'm here.
The sound of Ellie biting out a man's eyeball in the hallway is an audio recording of producer Bruce Campbell furiously biting into an apple.
Amazing.
Which he also, Bruce Campbell, who I said is the star of the franchise, has a cameo in the movie as the person who interrupts the priest by saying it's called the Book of the Dead for a reason, destroy it.
Great.
Beth saying come get some to the demon creature while holding a chainsaw is a homage.
Homage.
Is a homage. Homage.
It's a homage.
To go along with my Passover story at the beginning, it's a homage. To Ash Williams saying the same line while holding the shotgun in the S-Mart ending of Army of Darkness, the final film of the original trilogy.
I really think that moment was too heavy-handed. It took me right out of the moment where I was like, oh, come on.
I think it's probably, maybe that's the divide between if you've seen the other movies and you haven't, because it's a very crowd-pleasing moment, I think, if you've seen the other movies.
That's fair. That's fair.
In a 2020 interview with The Hollywood News, director Lee Cronin spoke about how being indoors because of COVID influenced the writing of the film. I think it was on my mind the fact that I was writing a movie about a family facing an evil force outside their door that they don't understand, and just at the time was the first wave of COVID. You remember talking to friends like, I read this, or I've heard that, or anything was kind of possible at that point. So I do think that there was some sort of commonality between what me and the rest of the world was going through and what I was writing and what was happening in the script. I definitely found that I had time to look around my space more, and things like a cheese grater in the movie, that's where it came from. I wasn't writing in an office, or I wasn't writing in a library. I was around all these domestic items. So it kind of worked out. Right place to work on the story.
That's pretty cool. And honestly, that makes me think of what's the movie that was a kind of like the oh god damn it. The disease movie before COVID that then everybody was like, oh my god, we should watch this. It predicted it. Not Pathogen. What was it called?
Contagion.
That was a scary movie.
Honestly, like everyone, I did rewatch that during the pandemic, and you know what?
Of course.
Wow, very accurate.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, Steven Soderbergh.
Truly. So there's an example of something where it's like, wow, that's scary. That could really happen.
Yes.
Like, yikes. And it was even scarier when it was happening. But anyway.
Yes. And not a horror movie, really. Like, it's more of just a drama. Like, maybe it's a thriller, if anything, but it's not really meant to be horrific. But it became horrific when you're like, oh, that's what we did.
Oh, so this is what's happening. It was like better than the news. Yeah.
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 Nell Fisher, who played Cass, said the scene she was most looking forward to recording was the elevator scene, because who doesn't want to be covered in blood?
I was wondering, like, was this poor girl, like, how did she feel? Is she in therapy now or what?
She seemed to have a great time doing it. And
Yeah,
they were saying, they're like, she was more serious about her craft than any of us were.
That's great. They definitely, I mean, obviously, you know, when you're on a film set, none of it feels real at all. So I understand that. I remember I did a short film once where I had to be murdered and then somebody had sex with my dead body, which is the kind of film that you do for very little pay when you're starting out as an actor. And people were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm fine." Like, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing, like, I understand that it's traumatic to watch. Some of the female crew couldn't watch. And I was like, "Why? I'm fine. We're not really doing this. I'm alive. Why are you?" I just felt like it was kind of a pissing contest of like,
yeah,
who's
really
the
taking
most
the credit
sensitive?
away from the actors, that you're like, it was so real. It's like, no, it's okay. It's performance. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we did great. I was amazing.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually, I can't take credit for that line. Whenever Corey comes home from work and I go, how was work? And he goes, oh, I mean, I was amazing. Anyway.
Lily Sullivan, who plays Beth, got an ear infection from the sticky fake blood and was doing bicep curls every morning to lift that chainsaw.
That's pathetic. Okay.
We're not all shredded like you, Gab. She wanted to make sure she wasn't getting tired holding that chainsaw. Okay.
Well,
two more.
CrossFit.
Alyssa Sutherland said she was somewhat inspired by Jim Carrey in The Mask for her Deadite performance.
Okay.
Which I kind of see it coming through because she was talking about that there is an element of once she is being the Deadite of joy, of it's like, ooh, I've been locked up for all this time and now I'm free to do what I want to do,
Yeah. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. There's a moment where somebody says, I'm free now, or she's free now.
From you titty sucking parasites.
Yeah. Whenever somebody abso-fucking-lutely loses their mind or like goes bananas in public, Corey looks at me and goes, he's free now.
There is an element to that. Like sometimes you see that guy and you're like, he's crazy, but he is free from our bullshit society.
Yeah. There was this time we were coaching at our old gym and that we were doing something hard. Like the clients were doing something hard. And this guy lost his mind. He like threw the plate across the room and was like, I just can't do it. And freaked out. And we were like, oh my God. And Corey looked at me and that was the first time he went, he's free now. Oh,
unfortunately,
man.
he is now in a padded room and he is not free.
He was like, he really just like had a full-blown toddler temper tantrum. And neither one of us could say anything. We were just like,
It happens.
And he's free now. It's true.
I think that's it.
No practical effects information?
I watched all the behind the scenes I could, and they really didn't talk much about it, which was disappointing.
Damn.
That's like the things I most want to know. I'm like, tell me about that shit.
Yeah, how do you
I will say, in all the behind the scenes stuff, you see virtually no CGI. Like everything was practically done. The makeup is so impressive that like there's a gag reel type moment where she's like singing. Ellie is in her Deadite makeup singing "Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves," and you're like, dude, that is still kind of freaky because she still looks so freaky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do still think horror is a very underrated genre in the element of we don't acknowledge how impressive horror performances are, because I think she is so fucking good in this movie. I really do.
Yeah, she did great.
Yeah, it's hard to get recognition for horror. That's what I think.
Yeah, 100%. I do think one of the other things I wanted to say, and I'm sorry it's so late, the dialogue in the prologue is so heavy-handed and terrible. They really could have done a better job.
In the prologue?
Yeah.
I guess so. I don't think there's much to it. I think the only thing that really also you can tell that those are not American actors too. Like they're it almost feels like NoHo Hank pretending to be
yes
American, where I'm like, just be your normal accent. Come on, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do your normal voice.
It's true. It was distracting.
Yeah, I don't know. I never cared about those characters, so I was just like waiting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
But you're right. That doesn't really bode well for what I'm saying for my movie anyway.
Yeah, the first scene I was like, oh my God, all right, we get it. Jessica's sick. Yeah, she's in the bed. Okay. Oh yeah, that she's such a pain in the ass anyway. Oh, okay, yeah, you love her. It was just like, all right, come on. And then it got better, obviously. Like the dialogue got better, but it just felt cheap and quick.
But the title card is very cool, right?
It was fine. Yeah.
It's cool as fuck.
Yeah. It's fine. It felt like because of the moment it came out of, I thought, oh my God, how fucking cheesy is this movie going to be?
It's cool as fuck when she rises out of the water and the evil dead rises right there. Oh, chef's kiss.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
Should we pitch?
Oh yeah, we could pitch. You pitch first.
Is this?
You be the pitcher, I'll be the catcher.
No, don't like that.
Sorry. I forgot the connotation. I was being serious. All right.
Here's my quick pitch.
Pitch me hard.
Here's the pitch.
And pitch!
You just pitch?
I don't need to hear the pitch.
Director Lee Cronin actually gave a pitch for his version of a sequel. He was like, I think a prequel would be cool of the priests finding their version of the book and seeing the priests surviving as long as they can against the Deadites.
Love that.
I like the idea of a few months later, Beth gives birth to a deadite, which traps them in the hospital and turns others into deadites, and they have to defeat the demon baby.
Huh. Okay.
Then I thought about it a little more, and I wrote, no, Beth gives birth. The doctor is a deadite who steals the baby because it's the most innocent possible, and Beth and Cassie have to save the baby before the deadites sacrifice it to bring back their leader.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Gab, what have you
yours is
thought
better
of in
than
the
mine.
past 60 seconds?
Okay, so while you were talking and I wasn't listening to you, I was thinking about a version of the movie in which uh so the demon travels from our Ellie and the brother and sister storyline and that whole thing in the car to Jessica, and then Jessica is at the cabin and kills the other two that she's there with. And so I'm thinking, okay, who's next? Where does the demon go next? And so I'm imagining a movie in which the demon, it's sort of like a road trip movie. The demon travels the country and is just like picking people off one after the other and hopping from case to case until finally the demon lands in California at James Franco's house and possesses Jonah Hill.
Love it. Love it.
So it's an intersection of those movies. It's a comedy.
I would hope so.
Yeah. But
although we know
but
Jonah Hill can do series.
Yeah, Jonah Hill, Academy Award nominee. Winner or nominee?
Nominee from Moneyball.
Okay. And also The Wolf of Wall Street.
Was he nominated for both?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think I won.
No. I think I won for what would be a better actual sequel to this movie.
Yeah, but I think I won for being arguably funnier and more charming.
And humble. Don't forget that
And
too,
humble,
Gab.
of course. Okay, it's a tie. So, all right, I guess we got to get to the verdict.
Let's verdict it.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Let's pretend that made sense, that thing I said.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. My movie. I think that this is fun. I think that if you've seen the other Evil Dead movies, it's elevated even higher because it gives you exactly what you want if you're a fan of the series. I think if you're not a fan of the series, that it's still scary, it's still interesting, it still gives you an interesting storyline with interesting characters and a scary scenario of facing what would happen if this were happening to your family. Because I feel like in a lot of horror movies, it's a random assortment of people or it's people and their friends, but this is literally, to go all Civil War, brother against brother, sister against sister.
Oh boy.
I love it. It's probably the most fun I had in a movie theater last year. Evil Dead Rise, to me, a movie to watch before you die. Gab, what say ye?
Well, Dylan, I had a lot more fun than I thought I was going to. I like it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It was I had a much easier time paying attention than I thought I was going to. But at the end of the day, I still my opinion on horror movies remains the same. They are unoriginal. The text is poorly written. It is visual art at best. And don't really understand it. I would be completely fine to never watch that again or any movie like it. And I don't want you to think that I'm shitting on this movie because I actually thought it was better than I expected. But I cannot possibly categorize it as a movie to watch before you die.
It's fair. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Watching this, does it make you regret still saying no to The Thing?
Dylan, I have expressed so many times that I regret saying no to The Thing.
And I will forever continue bringing it up.
Why can't we just watch it again?
Because that's not how it works, Gab. That's not how it works.
But what did we do about Vampire's Kiss? Well, I guess I watched it again. You only watched it the one time. But Vampire's Kiss,
one goddamn time.
Famously, we agreed is a movie to watch. By the way, I still think about that movie regularly. Do you?
Not really. But I don't not think about it. So it's come back to me several times.
Yeah. Well, you're around a lot less homeless people than I am.
That's true.
I see them and I'm like, oh, I know what's happening in your brain.
But you forget, I'm a vampire.
I'm a vampire. Yeah, great fucking movie. Anyway, yeah, no. I mean, no.
Fair enough. I'm so glad I got you to watch it. I'm glad it seems like you enjoyed watching it. It wasn't a terrible watch for you.
No, it was fine. It was fine. And like I said, I do have a morbid sense of curiosity, and it was nice to see the things that other movies previously have not let us see, because I do think if you're trying to scare me, you have to show me what I am afraid of. My imagination isn't strong enough for like the cut to black and me to be like, ah, you know what I mean?
And I will say also, I think I told the story before about me and Bruce Campbell, right?
Refresh me.
That I had found on IMDb message boards when that was a thing. Allegedly, it was his email. And I sent an email, and I got to be like 16 at the time or something. And I was like, hey, I've seen this movie and this movie and this movie and this movie of yours. And I just wanted to say you're awesome. And like, I quoted Army of Darkness and I went, whether you see this or not, hail to the king, and he wrote back like 2 days later and he was like, Dylan, back at you. Regards, Bruce. And I was like, you've got a fan for life, sir. Like, I was like, I am in.
Yeah.
I have seen so many of his movies, and he famously like does a lot of B-movie schlock, but he's great.
Well, I'm happy for you then.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Should we say the things we say at the end of this?
Could you say the things we say?
Yes. If you'd like to send us an email, you can email us at movieswatchbeforeyoudie@gmail.com. You can send us a voice message at the email or at anchor.fm/movies-to-watch. You can find our friends in the podcasting network Hall of Pods in the link tree below. You can also find our links in the link tree below, which I feel like I got to add something to, Gab. I feel like you should pitch your newest venture.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So Strength Code Fitness, Corey and I have launched an apparel line called Strength Code Fitness. This is the precursor to a lot of really cool things. We are hoping to have our own gym up and running as soon as possible. So anybody who buys a shirt is contributing to the funding of that gym and potentially the rest of my life. So if you wouldn't mind, buy a shirt. They're great. Comfort colors. Really cool designs. We got cool designs coming up soon. Yeah.
We should get a Movies to Watch Before You Die shirt.
Shut up. There are people watching. I mean, listening.
For all like 7 of those people, maybe like 2 of them would get a shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm down.
And I'll buy one. So that's 3.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Done.
Sweet. And also, even if you're not fit, you can get the shirt because they are really cool. And they say stuff like, thank you for suffering, which I think also just really applies to a lot of things. If your job is terrible, good shirt for your job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good at suffering. Dylan, you're great at suffering.
I am arguably the best at suffering. Yeah, I think we said all the things.
Yeah. Dylan, thank you. Thank you for making me watch this, I guess. And thank you for being my cousin.
Thank you for being a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And come back next week or 2 weeks from now when we talk about another movie.
Another movie.
Hey there, cutie pie.
You don't look so good, Mom.
Nothing a big ol' hug and kiss from you won't fix. Open up now.